A recent survey saw that there are 3 times as many mentally ill patients in jails and prisons than in hospitals, stated by Graham Walker, a physician at Kaiser San Francisco, in the journal Emergency Medicine News, published in September of 2020. Everybody in this room knows someone or has heard of someone who has a mental illness. American cities should defund their police departments. First, I will talk about what police brutality really is. Second, I will talk about what police defunding is and why we should defund the police departments. Finally, I will talk about what this money can be better well spent on. First, let's talk about police brutality. Police brutality, there are many different forms of police brutality. The first type is physical abuse. Physical abuse is when police officers physically harm or injure a citizen. They jump to drastic measures when it is not needed, either by applying physical force, pushing, shoving, or pulling citizens to the ground. The amount of impunity that the government has shown police officers has risen drastically in the past few years, according to Logan J, a professor at Winston-Salem State University, and Luis A. Fernandez, a professor at Northern Arizona University, in the journal Critical Criminology, published in July of 2020. Another form of abuse is verbal abuse. Verbal abuse, they do not physically harm the citizen, instead they just imply that they will or that they can. Another way that police show police brutality is by abusing their power. They do this by either blackmailing people or bribery by getting what they want in return of the citizens' unlawful acts are not recorded. Now that I've talked about what police brutality is, I will talk about what defunding the police really means and why we should do it. Defunding the police does not mean that the departments are getting rid of police departments altogether. It just means that they are going to shrink in size. Police officers' salaries will not change, although the number of police officers in each unit will dwindle. This may include that their hours will increase or decrease, depending on how many people in each unit. The police officers have too many situations to cover. They cannot handle every single situation. We should not have just one call to make, as 911, to handle any emergency situation. Police officers have to handle any non-medical or fire-related instance. They are not trained, or they do not. We should rank these emergency situations by level of importance, because police officers should not be required to answer every single call. Now that I've talked to you what the police defunding is and why we should do it, I'm going to talk to you about what this money can be better well spent on. This money should be better well spent on education and opportunities. With more money in education, people can have more opportunities, and we can have a higher quality of education. Another way we can spend this money is on housing. We can afford more affordable housing and better quality of living for citizens. Another way that we can do this, another way we can spend money on is healthcare. 10% of 911 calls have to do with a mental illness, reported by Lawrence W. Sherman, a professor at Cambridge, in the Cambridge Journal of Evidence-Based Policing, published in June of 2020. Instead of police answering these calls, it should be therapists or other healthcare providers that can deal with these situations properly. Now that I've talked to you about what police brutality is. Second, I talked to you about what defunding the police is and why we should do it. Lastly, I talked to you about what this money can be better well spent on. American cities should defund their police departments. There are many new factors that come into play when dealing with emergency situations. It's not all just about brute force and the police answering these calls. There are many new mental illnesses out there that need to be treated carefully, and only healthcare providers can deal with this properly.
441, excellent job.